Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Hey, how you doing? Are you okay? You look a little tense. You look a little like worked up or something, like worried? You upset or something? You know what? Just look it in your eyes. Just look it in your eyes. I know what you need. You need a little bit of absurdity in your life. So do yourself a favor. I got the perfect prescription for this. Go see a movie called Rubber. It's a 2009, I believe. I got to pull up my notes. I had to reboot my computer. It's a 2009 movie called Rubber. Now, I'm not going to spoil it. 2010 movie called Rubber. You need to watch it. I think it's on Crackle right now for free. You need to watch it because you need a little absurdity in your life. There's a lot of worry out there today and this week, and you need to laugh. You need to vent a little pressure just so you can think clearly and make the best decisions going forward. So go see this 2010 movie called Rubber. And without spoiling it, it's about a murderous tire that stalks its victims and uses psionic reverberations of the tire to blow people's heads up. You need that kind of absurdity in your life. I'm telling you, it will save your soul because we all got crazy things coming to us in all of our lives, maybe very, very soon. So we'll find out. We'll find out. I'll try to keep more positive as we go forward. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate that. You can also send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag ShockMonkeyRadio, all one word. You can send me money that way. Follow me on Twitter at DNALETSAW. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I would appreciate that as well. I also have books available for digital download. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's, but it's probably better that you follow the links down in the description below. If it's not there today, check tomorrow. The links will be down there tomorrow. But I post them all my videos. So the links are the best way to get to all my books. I got the Exit 13 books, the 3 Exit 13 books. And I got the Ravings of a Madman and the Bunny Years, a memoir. So check them out today. All right. So I want to talk briefly about this bank stuff that's been going on. Because, I really don't know a whole lot about math and finances, I think it's called. I don't know a whole lot about that stuff, but I do think that the issue here is that there's too much soft money in the world. And you know what soft money is, right? Soft money is a bunch of zeros that get shift around, in our financial sphere. So in the sense, there's far more money, quote unquote, that is soft, that is just digital bits and bytes being sent back and forth between banks, than there is hard currency. And apparently any hard currency we have is probably going into Ukraine, but even then you can't be sure that that's not just soft money as well. You talk about a few months back, they had that Sam Bankman-Fried thing, these investment funds or these banks, they'll get a hold of like money and they'll get money on a paper line, or the soft money line is like, okay, well, we could bet this on like the stock, these bonds or something like that. And sometimes they'll put them into, diversity, equity, and inclusion projects, to showcase how woke their company is, or they can invest in like what we're talking about is like Silicon Valley Bank. We're talking about a bank that probably deals with like Silicon Valley companies. And I'm telling you, these Silicon Valley companies have been overvalued for way too long. Do you remember the .com bubble? When like everyone had a website and it's like if they had the right combination of words at .com, you can become a millionaire. But that market, it kind of imploded. It was a bubble, because it's overvalued, And I think that like social media companies and all the censorship that they're doing and all the diversity stuff they're doing and pushing the transgender stuff, these are, when you bet money on projects like that, that's a bad bet. Because it can't pay off. Because it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. All right? And so censorship is a bad bet. Focusing on like your social governance score. is a bad bet because it's stupid and it's silly. It's like, why are you getting involved in all this? And you know what? I was thinking the other day, is like my favorite character in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was Watto. And if you remember that scene, it's a famous scene. Everyone quotes it all the time. You'll remember. But there's a scene where Qui-Gon Jinn is talking to Watto, and he's like, "Oh, I need this part to get the ship back at working order." And he's like, "It'll cost. We have Republic credits, and that'll be just fine." And he goes, "No, that's not fine." Watto's saying, "That's not fine. We don't respect Republic credits here. We only need real money." And he goes, "No, Republic credits will be fine." And he waves his hand. He says, "Why are you waving your hand like that? You think you're some kind of Jedi?" You know, everyone gets distracted by that part because that is a very smart-ass thing to say. Good on you, Watto. Great line. But the point is that Watto wasn't respecting the currency of the government. Coruscant, or however you pronounce it, is in the center rim. I don't know if you know the lay of the land in the Star Wars universe, but Coruscant is like in the core, galactic core, and Tatooine is out here on the outer rim. You know, when Luke says, like, if there's a bright center of the universe, you're the planet that it's farthest from. You know, it's in the outer rim. And so, and the Hutts control Nal Hutta and Tatooine, which are in the same system. So if you know enough about Star Wars, you understand it's like the Hutt currency is what matters on those planets. You know, you may say you have a government, all right? And then I started thinking even more about episode 1 and what he's talking about. Because in episode 1, they're flying into Coruscant, and they're having this conversation with Anakin. It's like, oh, the whole planet's a city. Isn't that neat? And it's like, wait a minute. If the whole planet's a city, do you have any resources? Where do you get your water from? Where do you get your food from? What do you export? Okay, you may have manufacturing on the planet, but do you have to import every product that you need to make manufacturing and export everything out? And Coruscant is a metaphor for cities, all right? Your city money is no good out in the country where people stockpile physical gold, you know? Gold coins. You know, the small, what do they call it? Easily negotiable properties, all right? They're not zeros in a bank account, in a hedge fund, you know, on a stock certificate. And that's why you get these people scared of a run on the banks, because the banks have been living in the George Bailey dream for way too long. Like, you think I have my money back? Your money back here somewhere? It's not here. Your money's in Tom's house. It's like, okay, whatever. Where's my money? And I've always been of the principle that if I go to my bank and I want to see my account, I have say $3,000 in my account. I want to see it all in nickels in front of me right now. In nickels. I think they should have that kind of money. But that's the problem. It's like, because so many transactions are made digitally, you know, we got this, you know, a weird matrix of fake money being shifted around constantly. And that cheapens the currency. And so if Coruscant isn't able to export anything, you know, it isn't able to sustain itself, you know, it needs to expand. That's the whole reason why England started going all over the world, is that it couldn't sustain its population on that island, so it started creating colonies. So that's why Watto is like, no, your Republic credits mean nothing out here in the Outer Rim. And so for all those poor people in Silicon Valley Bank, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't think the government or the taxpayers should be, you know, covering your losses because you put your money into a bank that's doing crazy stuff with your money. But don't worry. But I'll be there for you as the world falls down. I don't know. I've been thinking about David Bowie lately. So great. So I was thinking about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. What a great movie. What a great movie. And I want to talk about Socrates, or as you may know him better, as Socrates. And I was thinking about how as soon as Bill and Ted get the time machine, the first person they go to see is Socrates, excuse me. And so Socrates is sitting there in his toga, all his friends in their togas and stuff like that, thinking deep thoughts or whatever those Greek guys did. And he's sitting there trying to explain to them the very concept of modern thought, you know, the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. And Bill and Ted are like, of course, that's us, dude. But they're so dumb they kind of misunderstand. It's like, just because you know nothing doesn't make you wise. You know, so I think Bill and Ted misunderstood, but they wanted to learn from the father of modern thought, Socrates. I almost said Socrates again. They wanted to learn from Socrates again. And it's, learn it from the man himself. And so when they meet him, he's sitting there talking about, that. And so it's like, we got to quote him some lyrics. And what do they quote? They quote Kansas, dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind, dude, which is derived from Socratic method, Socratic thought, all we are is dust in the wind, dust, wind, dude. And they got that message across. And what does Socrates say right after he takes the sand and he lifts it up and he goes, yes, like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives, which is the intro to the soap opera, The Days of Our Lives, which is also derived on the Socratic modern thought. Brilliant part of the film. And you know what? Socrates, he finally makes this realization. He finally got his message to somebody else. And Bill and Ted are like, yeah, so he's like, screw it. I'm sitting around here and dressed like a kid in a diaper, overgrown kid with a bunch of gray hair old men talking about great things for what it's worth. Because it's all coming to an end, baby. And so Socrates, what does he do? He goes with these two strangely dressed men into their weird telephone booth shaped spaceship, for all he knows, and travels through time with them. And then you think about the other characters they run across, like Billy the Kid joins because he wants any adventure he can find. Plus, he was about to get killed. Sigmund Freud, he probably came along because, hey, it's scientific curiosity. Joan of Arc, clearly a zealot. She's like, oh, this is clearly an angel, and they're taking me to the Lord. So one could argue that they kidnapped Abraham Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln was the only one they actually physically grabbed. I think, even Genghis Khan, they baited with a Twinkie. Baiting is not the same as kidnapping. Okay, that's. But my point is that, the difference between Bill and Ted and Socrates is the idea is that Socrates is no matter how much you know, or even think you know, in the end, ultimately, it means nothing. And I think wisdom, true wisdom, is knowing what is taking the time to know what is worth knowing. That's why I call my news segment, The News Worth Knowing. Because there's tons of news out there that's not worth knowing. And to be honest, there's one or two news stories that aren't worth knowing. I just felt like talking about them because they're funny. Yeah. So Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure, always a great, great time. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? You want to fight me? You want to fight me? Hey, there's nothing but air and opportunity between us. Nothing but air and opportunity, buddy. Nothing but air and opportunity. Come and get it. You want some? Come and get it. Step up to the taco stand. Let me put some hot sauce on that shit for you. We want to fight. Wait. Before we fight, can I propose a bathroom break? Yes, I'm serious. Well, you see, I'm such a badass that while I'm kicking your ass, but even though I feel like I got a little poop coming, I might be kicking your ass and I might shit myself. And that'll be embarrassing for both of us because I would have shit myself and you would have got your ass kicked by a guy who shit himself. So can I propose a bathroom break before we fight? That's just one suggestion I have for trying to break up somebody who has a fight. Like they're trying to have a fight. Like if you see two guys getting in each other's face, it's like, okay, guys, I believe in mutual combat, no weapons, but does anyone need a bathroom break first? And if you if you say something like that, there's an opportunity for somebody to laugh. And in that opportunity is a moment where you can de-escalate a situation. And I was thinking about this when I was watching some cop videos on, I can watch the internet and there's tons of people encountering the police and filming it and even body cameras and stuff like that. And so I was thinking about how these cops, they always know they're on camera, always being filmed. And I remember working in a place that always had cameras on me and stuff like that. And I'm the kind of guy that makes faces at it or stare at it ominously for an hour. Just to mess with whoever's watching the videos. Man, this guy working this desk is creepy. Just staring at the camera for an hour. But you got to understand, it's these cops are dealing with very dangerous situations, sometimes very dangerous people. And so, but they're always on camera. And it seemed to me like before all that, when I got like pulled over the most was like in the 90s, early 2000s. And so, and they didn't have body cameras and stuff like that. And cops would crack jokes and stuff like that. And they would try to like de-escalate. And I remember, seeing a situation where this guy was being arrested, and the guy, he was starting to fight, starting to like trying to, he was resisting arrest. Okay. And the cop made a joke at that time because his like pants are coming down, and he's like, oh, I don't want to see all that. And like grabs him by the belt and lifts him up and gets his pants, gives him a nice wedgie. He's like, oh, now you got a wedgie. And, it caused the guy to laugh, and it like disarmed him, and he kind of went limp, and they cuffed him, But because these cops and so forth are constantly, know that they are on camera and everything they'd say or do is going to be scrutinized, it's like they're scared to use their sense of humor in order to de-escalate a situation. Now, people, want to talk about an increase of violence between the police and the public over these last few years, especially these years where the body cameras have been coming into use more and more prevalently. And so because these cops know that, it's going to be, if something happens, that film is going to be scrutinized by, tons of lawyers, judges, jurors, clerks, and if you make a lame joke trying to disarm a situation and it doesn't work, people will be like, did you really have to say that lame joke? It's like a guy who like pulls a gun on a squirrel or something like that because he gets startled or something like that. A cop, and forever he's known as the squirrel guy. They put squirrel stickers on his locker and stuff like that, and they're constantly, calling him names and making fun of him, But the point is that, I think cops should have that kind of leeway to be funny, to try to make a joke in a situation. I've always thought that, comedians would be the best cops. Could you imagine being pulled over by George Carlin? How about that episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Danny DeVito and what's his name, Glenn Howerton, were being fake cops? They come up having a cat in their arms. So, what's going on here? You moving in? We've been standing on this corner for a while. I think you're loitering. Hand me your wallet. I think comedians would be great cops, because de-escalation is really the name of the game. If you want like people to stop fighting, I think, the fastest way to make people not want to fight is to make them laugh. It's people will talk all the time about like cops need more training. And it's like, they should be taking comedy classes at their local community college or something like that, comedic writing or something like that. Or just go home, watch some tapes of, Norm Macdonald or something like that. Anyway. Yeah. Bathroom break. All right. So I want to talk about this movie I saw. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started watching it, I was like, I have a feeling I'm going to have to dislike this movie because of the way it's going. And I was surprised that it was called Imperium and not Harry Potter and the Agents of Thule, because it starred, what's his name? Daniel Radcliffe. Is that his name? Harry Potter? Yeah, okay. But this movie came out in 2016. It's called Imperium. And it's about these FBI agents who like go after terrorists. And Daniel Radcliffe is this like mild-mannered, nerdy type guy who goes out. He knows several Arabic like languages. He's been going after Muslim extremists for a while. That was his his beat. But he comes across this lady who's like she's as soon as like she had like this first speaking role, and she's sitting there talking in this room with all these other guys. And she's like, "You guys are all always looking for the Muslim terrorists, but you're not thinking about the white nationalists. The white nationalists they're the worst, And I was like, oh boy, this Karen's going to start causing some trouble in the office. And so I'm already like hate watching this movie halfway into it. This is actually like the first couple minutes of the movie. When all this was happening, it's like, oh, I have a feeling I'm going to dislike this. And so she talks Daniel Radcliffe into infiltrating this white nationalist movement. And wow, I was shocked. I saw it for free on YouTube because of the things they're saying. Because if I repeated what some of these people have said in this movie, they would take down my video, but I saw it for free on YouTube. And so just for safety's sake, I'm going to replace some words with other words just to keep things a little bit more user-friendly. But there was this one scene I really liked where he had infiltrated this white nationalist group, and he goes to this march with all these others. Like, there's so many of these neo-Nazi kind of guys, and they're marching in the streets, and there's normal people on the side of the road saying boo, of course. And then there's a couple of Antifa types. They're all wearing black with masks on. I was like, that's fairly accurate. And they're saying, yeah, you suck. And they're arguing and ended up throwing stuff at the guys. They had Antifa right a little bit. There's this one scene where he's walking along in and he's screaming all this racist nonsense. And he's his friend, this black guy, he's walking along. He spots him in the group. And he's like, dude, Nate. It's like, and this guy had a genuine look of curiosity, like confusion, just like, what are you doing? And then Daniel Radcliffe turns to him and says, you shut the fuck up, pirate. It was like, oh my God. And he's trying to keep his cover in this group. And he just turns to the guy next to him. He's like, guy works in my building. And I was like, dude, there's nothing more suspicious than what you just said. Anyway, they think he's the genuine article. And they start saying all these usual conspiracies. They're talking all this usual conspiracies about the Jedi. The Jedi invented banking. The Jedi invented Christianity. The Jedi invented the little braids. They go through a special ceremony that cuts the braid, and then they can start growing a full beard. And that's how the Jedi work. They have their hands in everything. They got the Force. They have their hands in everything. And you're just it was like, wow. I was very surprised at how accurate they got the rhetoric of these awful, awful people, too. And it's like the comment I placed on the movie on YouTube. It's like, you can think whatever you want about, the Proud Boys or Antifa or even true, Aryan assholes or, true socialist fascists who want to take over the country. There's a very important scene right at the very end that turned me. I hated the movie up until this last scene, where she's explaining to Daniel Radcliffe, it's like, you know why I picked you? It's because I knew you would get them. You would understand them. And you would relate to them better than most other people. Because, and this is what she said, something to the effect of, because what does fascism need in order to grow and to get power? And it's like, it needs victims. It needs victims. And so that was the whole point. It's like he started to realize, all these conversations he's having, it's like, oh, we're being oppressed by the Jedi. It's like, oh, the dirty pirates are just trying to take over this country. And, you start to realize is yes, that the fascism it recruits from the hurt, the anger of, especially young men who don't have good guiding fathers. And they've been trying to, our government has been trying to sever families, for a long time now. And so these kids are, these young men are angry. And so they're easily caught up in an ideology, whether that is a Proud Boy type ideology, or whether that is an Antifa type of ideology, because both sides can lead to fascist ends. They have both sides of that argument lead to a fascist ending. And it all depends on the idea that you're a victim and you need to fight against your oppressor. When you're not a victim. You shouldn't embrace your victimhood. You should take control of your own destiny and not follow the whims of some jackass who says something you kind of agree with. Not that I'm saying that Jedi are bad people or that I hate pirates or anything like that. It's the whole point of it is that if you go around every day thinking it's like, this is why I'm poor. This is why my YouTube channel doesn't have that many subscribers. It's because of the damn Jedi trying to keep down a good what am I? What am I be a Sith? I'm trying to keep down a good Sith. If you think like that, you're bringing nothing but worry and pain upon yourself. And so you have to take charge of your life, because otherwise there are very, very hungry factions out there willing to exploit your anger, your angst, and your, in many ways, recklessness and impetuousness. it was a really good movie. And I think that it was interesting that it came out in 2016, because I think if it came out in like 2017, 2018, 2019, because I think it came out before the presidency of President Trump. And I think that movie wouldn't have been released any later year, because the whole thing has a very kind of impartial yet American viewpoint. And I was just very impressed with the movie, because I guess I had low expectations. I was going in as like, oh, this Karen's going to manipulate this little tiny nerdy guy, Harry Potter and the Agents of Thule. Or is it Thule? I don't know how that word's pronounced. But anyway, yeah, Imperium, 2016, 11 of 13 stars. After you see Rubber, you should see Imperium. That's a pretty good movie. Like I said, that's for free on YouTube. Oh, shoot, it's 2:30 already. All right, I guess I'll talk about these new baseball rules a little bit, because opening day's coming up. What do you guys think about these new baseball rules? I may do a longer segment next week about this, but please comment down below. The first thing I want to say is, like, the larger size bases, I don't mind, because I don't want these guys spiking each other or running into each other. I mean, that's the whole reason why they expanded it. It's because you know how many collisions happen at second base? I mean, if you know anything about baseball, it's like there's tons of collisions at second base. And that is because, like, if a guy's sliding into second and there's a runner going to first, he wants to break up the throw. And so you'd see guys, like, trying to, like, back in, like, 2005, 2003, and stuff like that, they would physically get in front of the second baseman or the shortstop who's fielding the ball and try to block him, or even slide into the base in such a way that they knock him over to mess up their throw. And since we're getting rid of any kind of violence like that, like you can't even take home plate anymore, we're getting rid of that's making the bases bigger for that reason. I guess if we're still going in that direction, okay. But I think, like, the biggest thing that's making people upset is the new pitch clock rule, where it's ridiculously worded and complicated. It's like, basically, the pitcher must begin his motion to deliver the pitch before the expiration of the pitch timer. All right? And if the pitcher doesn't throw the pitch before the pitch timer runs out, that's an automatic ball. All right? And I think in the opposite, if the batter isn't in the box at a certain time, then it's an automatic strike. And that is what really irritates me, is that third strike. I think that third strike needs to be across the plate, or it needs to be, swung at and missed. I think, like, if just automatic clicking. I mean, I don't even like the balk for that reason, but at least the balk doesn't give up first base. Runners advance on a balk, but that means that you have to have runners on the plates. Anyway, and I was reading about the shift rule, where all four infielders must be on the infield dirt or grass, with two on each side of second base. Why? These teams, they spent millions of dollars on these stat nerds who, like, realizes, like, have, like, sorted each batter's spray chart to a point where they know where they need to put the defending people. And rarely do you see them like somebody be able to hit the other way outside of their spray chart. It's so ridiculous. And I understand there's something else about extra innings. If it goes to extra innings, there's a runner put on base? Let me see if I can find that one real quick. Automatic runner on second base in extra innings. Why? What the hell? I'll tell you what it is. It's networks trying to, like, hey, you got these other people, who pay for time on our network, and sometimes baseball games go 6 hours. When? Cry me a river. That's the point I've always loved about baseball, is that you don't know when it's going to end. There's no urgency. If there has to, I understand, like, the first pitch there being a timer. But when you're in a 3-2 count as a pitcher, and you're debating, it's like, I got 3 pitches, and, he's hit all 3 of them at one time or another. What do I throw next? Sometimes it takes a little while longer to make a pitch selection. Even the catcher's thinking about that. Because there's time for the communication between the pitcher and the catcher. What if the catcher needs to make a signal to the baseman? You have to like get time to go out and give the signals to the baseman? Anyway, yeah, let me know in your comments down below, and like I'll think about it more for next week, and maybe I'll talk about it then. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news worth knowing. I'll wet my whistle. All right, let's do international first. International news. So, UK, Germany scramble fighters to block Russia jets hours after U.S. drone crash. That's one way to put it. UK and Germany scrambled fighter jets to intercept 2 Russian aircraft flying near Estonia late on Tuesday. The Russian aircraft, a Russian IL-78 Midas refueling plane, and an Antonov 148 military transport approached NATO airspace without contacting Estonian authorities. The incident was the first time UK and Germany conducted joint air intercept as part of the NATO treaty. First time in an air mission. How long have you been part of NATO? Anyway, so NATO continues, this is a quote, to form the bedrock of our collective security, UK Armed Forces Minister James Heape said in a statement. Sorry if I got that wrong, sir. This joint UK and German deployment in the Baltics clearly demonstrates our collective resolve to challenge any potential threat to NATO's borders while demonstrating our combined strength. The incident came just hours after 2 Russian jets downed a $32 million U.S. drone over the Black Sea. The 2 jets had harassed the unmanned aircraft for several minutes before clipping the drone's propeller. I bet they didn't want to fire any ammo at it. Yeah, they saw it. They're like, if we shoot at it, we're going to have to explain it. It's going to have to fill out some paperwork or something. Because they're like, why are you spending money? You know we have none. And so I bet they just followed it and harassed it. I would love to see any videotape on that. 2 Russian jets messing with an unmanned drone until they finally clipped its propeller and down it went. Very low-tech approach, Russia. Very low-tech. Quote, at approximately 7:03 a.m. CET, I'm not familiar with that time zone, one of the Russian Su-27 aircraft struck the propeller of the MQ-9, causing U.S. forces to have to bring the MQ-9 down in international waters. Several times before the collision, the Su-27s dumped fuel on and in front of the MQ-9 in a reckless, environmentally unsound, and unprofessional manner. The incident demonstrates a lack of competence in addition to being unsafe and unprofessional. Gas is cheaper than bullets in Russia. That's obviously. Anyway, European Command and U.S. Air Forces in Europe, Air Forces Africa said in a statement, unsafe and unprofessional. Yes. That's fair to say, but, it's 2 pilots. This incident follows a pattern of dangerous actions by Russian pilots while interacting with U.S. and allied aircraft over international airspace, including over the Black Sea. These aggressive actions by Russian aircrew are dangerous and could lead to miscalculation or unattended escalation, the statement continued. The drone was conducting routine operations in international airspace at the time of the crash, the U.S. says. State Department summoned the Russian ambassador to the U.S., Anatoly Antonov, to express its strong objections to the intercept, spokesman Ned Price confirmed to reporters. I wonder if seriously that's how it goes down. If these Russian pilots ever have a briefing, it's like, if you see a drone, try to take it down without using bullets or missiles, especially not missiles. Missiles only use if you are fighting American craft or, NATO craft. Don't do what the U.S. did and blow a missile on a balloon. We're not the U.S. We can't afford that kind of reckless abandon. Yeah, as the world falls down, falling in love. Okay, let's go to this next story. Elon Musk, others respond after protesters smash windows, hurl eggs at Charlie Kirk event on college campus. They thrust the Elon Musk name in here just to get people to click on it. Ugh. I hate headlines like this because they're designed for me to click on it. But the event is worth covering no matter what Elon Musk says about it. About 100 protesters at the University of California, Davis surrounded a venue attempting to disrupt an event Tuesday evening headlined by conservative personality and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. The event was organized by the school's Turning Point chapter. The protesters, who were mostly wearing black, clashed with law enforcement officers and other students, including attendees of the event, as they smashed windows, hurled eggs, used pepper spray, and blocked people from entering the University Credit Union Center, where the event was held. There were at least 2 arrests. Quote, "Not a peaceful protest at all," said Twitter CEO Elon Musk. After photos and video surfaced, several people responded to Musk, agreeing. Why? Some made comparisons to the January 6th Capitol protest. Well, it wasn't Antifa then. UC Davis said in a statement that after the event, 1 police officer was injured during the incident. Quote, "Outside the UC, about 100 protesters gathered for a brief time and blocked the main event entrance and the pathway to the entrance," the school said, admitting there were, quote, "minor incidents." They added, 1 officer sustained an injury when he was jumped on from behind and pushed to the ground. And 2 people were arrested and taken to Yolo County Jail for allegedly painting graffiti on an exterior wall of the University Credit Union Center, or UCUC, where the event was held. So 1 guy jumped on the back of a cop, and 2 others were caught with graffiti. So do you think that, like, the guy was like, what? You know how these Antifa are? They're usually bigger people. And it was like a guy's like, "I always wanted to do cop rodeo." And he just jumped on the cop's back, but unfortunately it was too heavy, and just, cop just collapsed. Then, boom, assault charges. You assaulted a police officer. "I thought I was going to give me a ride." It's not funny. Don't laugh. The school also said protesters near the northeast entrance broke 10 glass window panes in the doors. Protesters did not gain access to the building, however, and eventually left the area. There were no arrests related to the breaking glass, the school said. Protesters held signs supporting trans and queer people, obviously, that's who they're supporting. Had umbrellas that used to cover their identities. Videos and photos were taken at this. They don't want their parents finding out what they're doing. Other protesters threw eggs and other objects. There were some reports of people being pepper sprayed by others in the crowd. Outside of these pepper spray reports, no physical injuries were reported and no one requested treatment for the injuries. The protesters also physically blocked a bike path and made it very difficult for others. At least one of the people arrested did not attend UC Davis and was not affiliated with the school. The school said that one of those taken into custody, who is not affiliated with UC Davis, was charged with misdemeanor vandalism and resisting arrest, and the other, who had not been identified, was charged with vandalism, resisting arrest, and threats on a police officer. Yeah, so I guess these graffiti artists resisted arrest too, idiots. Kirk has been subject to criticism at UC Davis and all around California, resulting in a previous event at the school being shut down. The op-ed in the Sacramento Bee ahead of the event called for its cancellation, alleging Kirk has to have called for the lynching of trans people. No, I guarantee you he has not said that. Charlie Kirk, this is a quote. Charlie Kirk has called for the lynching of trans people, a comment that should warrant the cancellation of speaking engagement at UC Davis. The outlet said has since deleted tweet. They also called him a fascist speaker. During the event, Kirk addressed the terrorists outside and applauded security and supporters for defying their attempts to shut down the event. Quote, "I don't know if you saw, but they broke some windows. The terrorists did outside. People had things thrown at them," Kirk said. "We're not going to put up with that with force of trying to shut down people you don't like." He added, "Tonight is a statement to them that they're the losers." UC Davis's Twitter bio says the school is a place to learn, grow, and find your community. It also boasts of its unforgettable memories and unconditional support. God. Anyway. So, yeah. So let me ask you, I mean, if you think the police, like, once these kids started breaking these windows, if the police came in with, like, I don't know, riot shields or something like that, and, like, shoot them off, or like started saying something like, "We're going to arrest all of you, for this unlawful assembly," do they even do that anymore? Do cops ever do that anymore? Do you have a permit for this? Let me see the permit. No permit. This is unlawful assembly. You have 10 minutes to vacate, get out of here, or we're going to arrest you. I mean, would it have been safer to do it that way? I mean, one guy hurt, 3 people arrested. One cop tried to get ridden, and do you think more people would have got hurt? See, that's a tough call. I don't know. But I do know that these idiots, they've no idea what they're doing. Because it's like the op-ed, you know? It's like they believe things like that stupid op-ed. Who calls for lynchings anymore? I haven't heard that in years. The last time I heard that was in, I don't know, Mississippi Burning or something like that. You know? It just makes me wonder if these people, like, all they do is, like, sit at home and watch, like, movies from the 60s and 70s. Or, you know, and think that the world that they see in there is still out there. Oh, my Lord. Anyway. Let's go on to this next thing. Some San Francisco residents may receive $5 million in reparations after board expresses unanimous support. Okay, you ready for this? San Francisco Board of Supervisors met Tuesday in official discussions on reparations, with $5 million payments on the table for every single black adult in the city. The board expressed, quote, unanimous support for reparations during the meeting, even after Stanford University's Hoover Institution calculated that proposal would cost non-black families in the city at least $600,000. $600,000 per family. Anyway, members of the San Francisco board also expressed interest in other forms of reparations for the city's roughly 50,000 black residents, including a guaranteed annual income of $97,000 for 250 years, and a home for just $1 a family, according to the Associated Press. While San Francisco has never notably ever allowed slavery. That is a weird way to phrase that. While San Francisco has notably never allowed slavery, some supervisors in the city argued that the journey towards justice was more important than exact calculations. Listen to this quote. There wasn't a math formula. San Francisco's chair of the African American Reparations Advisory Committee, Eric McDonald, reportedly told the Washington Post. It was a journey for the committee towards what could represent a significant enough investment in families to put them on this path to economic well-being, growth, and vitality in the chattel slavery and the policies that flowed from it destroyed. The draft reparations plan also acknowledged that while San Francisco and California has never formally adopted slavery as a policy, quote, white supremacy and other forms of oppression qualify as justification for mass reparations. Okay. Quote, while neither San Francisco nor California formally adopted the institution of chattel slavery, the tenets of segregation, white supremacy, and other systemic repression and exclusion of black people were codified through legal and extra-legal actions, social codes, and judicial enforcement. The draft proposal argued. The proposal continued. A lump sum payment would compensate the affected population for the decades of harm they have experienced, and will redress the economic and opportunity losses that black San Franciscans have endured collectively as the result of both intentional decisions and unintended harms perpetuated by city policy. Other officials have opposed a multi-million-dollar recommendation for reparations, calling them unserious. Quote, this conversation we're having in San Francisco is completely unserious. Chair of the San Francisco Republican Party, John Dennis, told the AP News. They just threw a number up. There's no analysis. They admitted that. Dennis continued, it seems ridiculous, and it seems that this is the one city where it could possibly pass. Oh, Lord. But some members on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors fired back at critics, including among local constituents. Quote, those are my constituents who've lost their minds about this proposal. It's not something we're doing or we do for other people or would do for other people. It's something we would do for our future, for everybody's collective future. Supervisor Raphael Mandelman said, everybody's collective future? The San Francisco Board of Supervisors President Aaron Dan Peskin did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Fox News Digital. All right, so look, Bay Area black people, patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I'd very much appreciate it. Or you can send me money through Cash App. Use the cash tag, shockmonkeyradio. Spread the wealth around. That way everybody could benefit from this. As the government of San Francisco, who has never been racist. Never, ever been racist. You know? That's what I think is funny. It would be, it would make more of a point, like saying Richmond, Virginia. You know? If it was like, in Richmond, Virginia, they're coming up with this plan. It's like, well, yeah, Virginia, we were big on that slavery thing for a while. And okay, it'd be different if Virginia is like, okay, they're somewhat culpable, even though I think that reparations is ridiculous anyway, you know, because it's not like they were slaves anyway. But it's like California, I mean, let's be honest, is like you were the more enlightened state back in that era, you know. And as your city formed, as the government built, coalesced around you, you know, as the government formed, you know, you had never been, you know, you should be proud of yourself about this, California. You have never been interested in slavery. You have never been interested in any of that, you know. But you want to sit there and try to take responsibility for it? You know, when back in the 1860s, where do you think all these escaped slaves were running to? They either run north or west. And that's it, you know. They hit the coast and, you know, by the time people like crossed all those mountains and got across the country, they're like, I don't care what color your skin is, as long as you got some water or food to trade or something like that. You know, people got realistic in the travel west. You know what I mean? So it baffles my mind. It's like, just because you're that progressive doesn't mean you need to take responsibility for, you know, it's not your problem. It isn't even Virginia's problem. Anyway. Yeah, so black people, there's my Patreon down there. San Francisco. In San Francisco. If you get that $5 million reparations, blow some money in here. You remember that Dave Chappelle sketch where reparations came through? There's like I remember reporting here with now the richest man in America who won it at a craps game last night. You know? I think it's funny because it's when people who never had money before, like, get a whole bunch of money, it's a nightmare. It's bad. It's, if you look at like people who win the lottery and stuff like that, it's like, boy, their lives after that, it's just a nightmare. It's not good. You shouldn't give people money they did not earn, you know? I don't know, but if I won the lottery, I'd take it. I'd die of the heroin overdose, you know? Anyway. So let's make fun of Drew Barrymore and this weird-looking dude. All right, so Drew Barrymore roasted for kneeling before a trans woman, Dylan Mulvaney. Such an insult. Yeah. When I first saw this picture, I was like, oh, that's cute. That hippie guy is proposing to that tall girl. It's like, no, that wasn't it. Because Drew Barrymore's wearing a suit. And you know how, like, if it's like a wedding, and they're like, you can't look better than the bride, you know? And if you wear something nicer than the bride's wearing, you know, the bride would get mad and stuff like that. It seems like something like that, where Drew Barrymore dressed in a masculine way, and Dylan Mulvaney dressed in a freakishly feminine way. It's funny because you see these stills and stuff of him, and you're just like, okay, I guess that looks like a woman. Then you see like a video of him walking, and you're like, there's something swinging between those legs. You know, and that's the point. Is like, you know, anyway, let's read the story. Drew Barrymore is blasted on Twitter for literally kneeling to a man, quote unquote. I don't know why they put that in quotes. Kneeling to a man during an interview, as noted with noted trans TikToker Dylan Mulvaney. Mulvaney appeared on the Drew Barrymore show Monday morning to discuss Mulvaney's TikTok series, Days of Girlhood, which recently reached a year milestone. During the segment, hold on, no, it didn't reach a milestone because he didn't become a girl. During the segment, they discussed combating hatred in their careers. It's interesting because I look at someone like you and I can't imagine anybody disliking you, Mulvaney remarked. That's interesting. I'm highlighting that. I might come back to that. Oh, please, Barrymore answered, kneeling in front of Mulvaney. Do you want to know, ironically, who dislikes me the most sometimes? Myself. The exchange led to a hug between the two as they continued the segment kneeling and sitting on the floor. The display was quickly attacked on Twitter as users for the female Barrymore apparently debasing herself for the biologically male Mulvaney. Yes, it looks weird. Women are now getting on their hands and knees to show solidarity with a man who has never lived for a woman, who has lived for a woman in less than a year. It hasn't lived for a woman at all. This is a quote, though. Truly the sneakiest trick the patriarchy ever pulled. State Freedom Caucus Network comms director Greg Price commented. YouTuber Ollie London tweeted, "Why does Drew Barrymore hate women? By kneeling and bowing down to a man who mocks women. Drew is slapping every single woman in the face. Such an insult." Yeah. Woody Harrelson is right. This is a quote. "Fame is one of the most negative effects on the brain. Hot takes. All hell breaks loose after Drew Barrymore prostrates herself before trans woman. Red State Deputy Managing Editor Brandon Morse choked." Anyway. So obviously, this is going to go through a lot of So here's my question. If I pretended to be a woman for a year, do you think I'd be able to talk to the president? Or even Drew Barrymore and make a pass at her? Because I would still make a pass at Drew Barrymore. I don't know what it is. It's like, I think it's because I feel like we grew up together. She was born in 75. I was born in 77, and then she started becoming an adult, and she was like crazy. She was crazy when she was like 18 to 20s and stuff like that. And now she's like calmed down and stuff like that. But the problem is that, go ahead and slap the sexist label on me right now. Women are far too agreeable. They're so agreeable that they will disagree with logic and fact. It's like, I understand that women, I want to care for this person I'm talking to as best as I can. It's like, it's very hippy dippy and weird. All right. To me anyway. And I will deny reality in order to provide that for this person. And that is not a good thing. That's not a good thing. You need to be able to rein that in as a human being, if you ask me. And so, and you got to understand, it's like Drew Barrymore has never been in touch with the common human being. All right. She has been rich and famous since she was a zygote. You know what I'm talking? She's Barrymore dynasty. It's probably the only reason why she has a show. It's because of her last name. All right. And you got to understand, it's like women are far too agreeable to the point where it's tragic. It's where, it can result in tragedy to the point where it's like they're sitting there, it's like, as far as concentration camps go, I think this is the nicest one. Do you understand what I'm getting at? I mean, it's good to have people who can see the positive in any bad situation. That's important for humanity to live and thrive, because we're constantly need to be faced with bad situations. I understand that, but there needs to be reasonable people. It's like, yeah, but we're still in a concentration camp. You need somebody out there. You see some actual dude out there saying, this is ridiculous. That's a guy. All right. And because Dylan Mulvaney is on the lips of people like me and in the news and on the headlines and stuff like that, the way his story is going to end is going to be terrible. It's going to be awful, and we're all going to see it. All right? Because the stories about these people never, ever end well. Very rarely end well, and we need to stop encouraging it. Anyway, you want to get into some lighter notes? Holy cow, we got to go through, yeah. So, we'll go through these quickly. Biden mocked for tweeting a, quote, super real, totally not fake letter from a child about equal pay. All right, so I'll just read this. Somebody tweeted, I think yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. This is a letter it's like ruled paper, a lot of erasure marks. And so here's what it says. I got to read the actual quote here from that. Okay, here we go. Dear President Biden, I just wanted to tell something not fair to ladies. Men are getting more money than girls. I think you should fix this, since you're the president. Even I'm a child, and I think we should do something. And so Biden responded to the letter, saying, Charlotte, I couldn't agree more. Women lose thousands of dollars each year and hundreds of thousands over a lifetime because gender and racial wage gaps. I'm committed to building an economy where the daughters have the same rights and opportunities as my sons. Yeah. First of all, it's like you should have corrected her spelling. It was like, what's your teacher's name? What is your teacher's name? You know, and I bet whoever faked this letter thought it'd be cute to call it precedent. Isn't it cute? My cute little girl, precedent. It's like, well, yeah, I don't think you deserve equal pay if you can't spell president. You know, maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. And you know what? This whole idea is still ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This is 2023. Women are the majority in the workforce. You know, women are far more educated than men these days and are offered more jobs these days. There's no discrepancy. All right. It's all craziness. Anyway, let's go to that next story. Get out of here. So, Connecticut church sues over school vaccine mandate. We will obey God first. So a church in Milford, Connecticut, that's not far from where I was born, is filing suit against the state government claiming its First Amendment rights have been violated by vaccine mandate. In 2021, the state of Connecticut altered a law entitled the Act Concerning Immunizations to remove all exemptions to vaccination requirements except medical instances. Milford Christian Church refused to compel students in its pre-K program and K-12 academy to get a vaccine, claiming it violated its religious conscience to mandate the injections. The state informed Milford Christian Church that they had a choice between compelling their students to vaccinate, expelling them if they didn't, or facing a forcible state closure, according to attorney Cameron Atkinson, who is representing the church. Our message to the state is clear. We will obey God first, Atkinson told reporters at press conference Friday. Connecticut State Department of Education, the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood, and Connecticut Department of Health are listed in the lawsuit. Whew. It would halt the academic process, and I want my daughter to be able to start kindergarten when it's time for her to start kindergarten. Parent Marlene Beauregard, who has a child in the church's pre-K program, told Fox 61. And now someone is trying to override my parental rights, my religious rights. The Connecticut government is working with Milford Christian Church to reach an agreement that will keep students in school while the legal dispute continues. The plaintiff will submit information to the court as early as today to provide clarity, the Attorney General's office told Fox 61. As always, the state prefers to work with schools collaboratively to meet licensure requirements and avoid any interruptions in the education of the students. That being said, vaccines save lives. The legislature's action was fully lawful and necessary to protect public health. We have successfully defended multiple baseless challenges to the statute and will continue to defend the statute. I can't believe people are still fighting to avoid getting this jab. You know, this stuff is over. It's over. People who would have gotten it have gotten it by now. Most of the people I know who got it 2 years ago. And you know what? Most of them have been healthy ever since. A couple of them have been worse. So there's a reason why people don't want to get it. Didn't like Ice Cube or come out and say, I didn't get the jab. I turned down like $7 million job because they wanted me to get the jab. It's like, I'm not doing it. Good on him. Anyway, we got to end the show. I'm over time. So I want to remind you again to go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio, especially if you're a black person living in the San Francisco area. Become a patron there. You know, there's plenty of little options in there that you can support us. Or you can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Follow me on Twitter, at DNALETSAW. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. So this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.